Good evening, friends.
Good evening.
Good to see you all. Thank you very much for choosing to be with us here on this lovely Sunday evening. So, this morning, as Debbie said, we completed day 4 of our winter recitation training. Yeah, halfway through. So, that's really wonderful. I don't know about you, but I really feel energized by it. It's a hard thing getting up so early in the morning and going and practicing long recitations, but I just felt, wow, it's such a short recitation right now. We're so used to doing such long, intensive recitations lately. And one thing I've been thinking about though, I've been reflecting on in this time, is just how critical the support of the members is during this time. On the first day of the recitation, I was doing the leader role, and shortly after I began, I felt this overwhelming pressure just kind of consume me, and it was something like I had never felt before, and all of a sudden it affected my entire being, and all I could do was just slump over. And I couldn't read. He said all I could do was listen to those to either side of me or behind me as they were reciting. And I noticed at that moment that the volume, intensity rose. I could tell that they were trying to support me as I was in this state. And all of a sudden, that power connected with me and I was able to push forward. At that time, I didn't realize, or I didn't know why I felt that way, why that emotion overcame me. But later, as I was in the car talking with Chika, she said to me, you're not alone up there. She reminded me that. And then it hit me. I realized it was for that purpose that I experienced that. The purpose of being able to feel the support of the Sangha. That's always there, guiding me. Sometimes I feel it's the other way around. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But the reality is, I'm being supported always by the Sangha. And it led me to really recognize just how critical each and every member of the Sangha is. And how without just one person, it changes the dynamic of the entire Sangha. Well, Shakyamuni's Sangha at the beginning was a very small Sangha too. He had only 5 disciples at the very beginning. As we know, after his attainment of enlightenment, he built up the courage and the passion to go and spread the Dharma. So he went off to Sarnath, and there was a deer park out there. And he came across his old friends, those 5 ascetics who had practiced asceticism with him in the past. And he decided, it's going to be to these people that I will first preach the Dharma. And so he did. And with that, it began really the inception of Buddhism as it was. Because at that point, there was the Buddha, there was the Dharma that he was teaching, and then there was the Sangha. This newly formed Sangha who was there to listen to the Dharma, practice the Dharma. In the Samyutta Agama Sutra, Ananda, who is the Buddha's chief attendant, he says to Shakyamuni, "World-honored one, I think that good friends and good companions will lead us on at least part of our path toward accomplishment of the Buddha way. They are half of the holy path. Is that correct?" And to this, Shakyamuni replied, "No, Ananda, do not say that. Good friends and good companions do not lead us only partly towards our accomplishment of the Buddha way. They lead us all the way. They are the whole of the holy path." So good friends here means members of the Sangha who have the same sense of values regarding the Buddhist teachings and who also strive for the same kind of self-improvement. And of course, the holy path is Buddhism. The Buddha taught us how important it is to meet with these good friends in the Sangha as we walk along this Buddha path. Because otherwise we tend to become very lazy and we stop studying and practicing. But with this support, as we study and practice hard, we encourage one another in our practice. This idea of good friends comes out very often in the Lotus Sutra. And one in particular that I like is in chapter 27, the previous life of the king wonderfully adorned, as titled in the Lotus Sutra, Reeves version. And this is a sutra about this king who, or a chapter I should say, about this king who has these sons. Now the king himself is a Brahmin, and he has these sons who are trying to practice under Shakyamuni, under the Buddha. And they're very ambitious, and they want to go and study with him. But the king, he doesn't really know much about it. So Queen tells the king, why don't you convince your father? And so they do all these supernatural acts. And by that, that means they practice the Bodhisattva way in spectacular fashion in front of their father, and they inspire him. And eventually, he's able to receive the Dharma and actually go and become a disciple of the Buddha himself. And it's in front of the Buddha that he says, these two sons are my good friends. And to that the Buddha replies, by planting roots of goodness, any good son or good daughter will have good friends in life after life, and these good friends will be able to do the Buddha's work, demonstrating the teachings of the Dharma, enriching and bringing joy to others, enabling them to enter supreme awakening. So he's talking about just how valuable our good friends in the Dharma are. Another important instance comes out in chapter 12. Chapter 12 is the story about Devadatta. And he says, it's because of my good friendship with Devadatta that I was able to become a Buddha. And of course he's talking about Devadatta in a previous life, who was his teacher. And because he taught him and guided him along the path, Shakyamuni in this life was able to attain full, perfect enlightenment. So we see this come out very often in the Lotus Sutra, this idea of good friends. So we all go through hard times, don't we? This is reality. But when we live as isolated existences, it can be very hard for us to recover once we falter, once we fall off the path. However, if we have a community of good friends, if we have a Sangha there with outstretched hands, they can carry us, they can support us, they can caution, encourage, and teach one another so that they may overcome that faltering and get back on that road to a better life. A characteristic of good friends, not just in the Dharma, but any kind of good friend, is that they always strive to be considerate, like this. Cheerful, warm, and gentle. These qualities. Now one may say, well, that kind of depends on one's nature. You know, it's kind of hard to always be like that. But I disagree with that perspective. I believe that as we practice the Dharma sincerely, wholeheartedly, these virtues come naturally to us. We naturally become more warm as we practice compassion, as we think about others and how to benefit them. These feelings come naturally of themselves. sometimes, because of the Sangha, we can be encouraged by the progress that we've made. We can't always see how we're progressing on our own, but from the outside, they can see us and help us, push us along, encourage us. But at the same time, the Sangha can also help us realize when we need to train further, when we have more work to do. It's only by repeating this kind of sharing through these good friends that we are able to continue to tread on the path to perfect enlightenment. We need this type of mutual support. And so this, of course, is why the Sangha is one of the three treasures of Buddhism. We may look at the other two, the Buddha and the Dharma as well, but these are sometimes kind of hard to grasp. The Buddha is this very complex, profound quality, or it's so abstract, because it represents this the eternal life energy, really, and everything that is supported by that. The same thing with the Dharma. It pervades the universe, it sustains everything, right? So we can't just say, oh, that's the Buddha, that's the Dharma, especially in this modern age when we don't have a Buddha here with us, at least not in the form of a Buddha. However, the Buddha's Sangha shows us in living form the Buddha's compassion and the workings of the Dharma. It is through living beings that the Buddha's liberation and the truth of the Dharma is revealed to us. At the beginning of the new year, President Ichiko Niwano gave his address, as he always does each year, giving guidance on how we should approach the year. And in his guidance he says that although a great number of people live together in society, they have no chance to get to know each other. And I think this can make a society a very lonely place. I think society originally meant a community of people living in harmony. Each person in a society should light it up with true wisdom, try and get to know others, trust in them, and cooperate with them diligently. This is what we're being charged with here as Risho Kosei-kai members. Here we are companions, we are good friends. We have formed this harmonious group, sharing the true Dharma and the Buddha's teachings as the center of our lives, regardless of our differences. We're all different, right? But we're all pursuing that path in the same way. There's a expression that comes from Nietzsche. It says, itai doshi, or many in body, but one in spirit. This is the focus, I think, of our practice, to recognize that we're all many in body. We all have different thoughts, we all have different opinions on things, likes and dislikes. But ultimately, we're all the same. We're all rooted in the same wish to become happy. And we're all following in the same path together. So, this idea is really an expression of our interdependent or independent origination, which shows that everything is interconnected in this world. So, though we appear different, we're all one. So, when as the reading said earlier, when our friends come to us, we should listen carefully to their problems, share in their pain, and work to resolve their problems. The joy of seeing that friend be freed of pain and worry, that comes from the practice alone is our reward. In other words, just seeing them overcome that suffering, see it dissipate, that alone is the reward. If we are sincere in our approach with others, they will respond in the same way, eventually finding the same kind of joy of serving others as you did in helping you. The Buddha teaches that the fact that we are now here practicing the Dharma means that we have met multiple times in the past. So this is some kind of a reunion of sorts. We're gathering again after many lifetimes, furthering our practice. But the fact that we're here, though, right, it means that our work is not done, that we're still trying to practice further and further along, and we still have a lot of work to do. So speaking of this kind of interconnectedness, as it were, I was thinking about Facebook's role in Buddhism. Facebook has done quite an amazing job of connecting our world. Well, how many of you use Facebook? Okay, pretty much everyone, right? You know, they now have over 800 million users on Facebook. Significant. Often I find myself, when I'm using Facebook, reacquainting with some people that I hadn't met in a long time. Maybe it's my long-lost relatives or friends I had in Japan or friends back in high school. And it's always nice to catch up with them, see what's going on in their lives. And sometimes I become friends, right, with people I don't even know. It just happens to notice that they are also maybe Kosei-kai members or other practitioners of Buddhism. And I say, okay, we're all working together, let's be friends. Facebook does, however, provide an instant way for us to gratify our egos. This is one of the other things. I mean, as we look at it, as we create our profiles, it's very representative of ourselves for the most part. And it does tend to help us build and create this sense of self. Of course, it doesn't have to be that way, but it's a tendency for a lot of us. I have to admit that sometimes I feel some pleasure when I see that somebody's liked my picture or my comment or what have you. But Facebook is just really the platform, and it cannot be blamed for our own human emotions and our egos being manifested in this way. This just gives me a chance to look at, oh, it's just me again trying to show something about myself. Nevertheless, I see Facebook as a very formidable means of coming into contact with many others and bringing them, because that's what I do, into the Buddha conscious. In other words, every time I meet with people, I always think, how can I communicate with them to help bring them into awareness of the Buddha's teachings through various ways. I know that many of you are helping to post and comment on our own Facebook page. I really do appreciate that support. It really is helps us to reach out to the community at large. And as I see these responses coming in, even from that extended global Sangha, I can't help but feel motivated to step up my own practice. Being able to celebrate in the joys of others or console those who may be suffering is another wonderful opportunity that I've been able to feel from Facebook. Listening to other people. Maybe there's a death in their family, maybe someone's sick, or maybe someone's rejoicing at a wedding or the birth of a child. These are all ways for us to also connect and share with them. So I think this is wonderful. And certainly my fellow Facebook Dharma friends who often post videos or quotes from across the Buddha's lineages, they've all inspired me as well. The depth of their commitment in living the Dharma, living the Buddha's teachings, is encouraging to me, as I can see that there are many ways that we can practice, and also that we were all really in that same boat together. So I see Facebook as a modern and beautiful means for not just creating friendships, but also Dharma friendships, creating good friends in an extended Sangha. So, I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but Risha Kosei-kai International North America just released a new online magazine called Sangha in Motion. This just was released a couple of months ago, and if you're interested, you can check it in our website. We have a link to it. And this is really about what we're doing here in the United States. Not so much just, other places around the world or in Japan, but particularly here in the United States, what type of activities we're doing, and there's a lot of testimonials. It's really a wonderful thing. And I think it's a buy every 2 months that a new one will come out. But if you go and you check the link, you'll be able to see the first one is out there. Well, this title, Sangha in Motion, I think actually my mother coined that many years ago. And the idea when they were coming up with this title was, how do we represent our Sangha? It's not a Sangha that's idle. It's a Sangha that's constantly moving, helping, guiding, always thinking of others, just like our standing Buddha represents the action, right, the practice. We ourselves, as the Sangha members, are constantly in motion, right, constantly working to help others. So, well, the Sangha, though, originally, it just meant the community of Buddhist monks and nuns. That was the original meaning of the word Sangha. However, Shakyamuni Buddha gave the name much more broadly to represent a community of fellow believers who sought the same teachings as his disciples, regardless if they were lay or monastic. He intended harmony among the believers as a requisite for the formation of a community of believers. So, when we say we're taking refuge in the Sangha, right, what we're really taking refuge in is the virtue of harmony. Taking refuge in the Sangha does not mean that a superior will guide a subordinate, or that subordinate will obediently act in accordance with those instructions. All members of the Sangha act as mentors to one another, revering the Buddha nature inside each and every one of us. This type of harmonious community is the true form of the Sangha. Founder Niwano said that however strong the faith of individual believers may be, they will never succeed in creating an ideal society as long as they do no more than follow their faith and engage in Dharma practices alone by themselves. So, what are we talking about here? This is the tendency of this modern age. But it is our job, our mission, to shift that paradigm, to be able to change the outlook of the global Sangha in this modern day, that we're all working together. The first essential point is showing the Dharma ourselves by the practice of creating harmony through the virtues of respect and generosity. Only through these actions, as good friends, can those around you see that we are fundamentally united in our bonds of humanity and that we seek the same goals in our lives, fundamentally achieving everlasting peace and happiness. It simply cannot happen, though, without our own putting in effort. And that effort has to start today. If we all work together to realize this great mission, this mission that is the inherent vow of the Buddha, there is absolutely no limit to how many lives can be touched and liberated. Thank you.